Hey, welcome back to the Financial Autonomy Podcast. My name's Paul Benson, financial planner and practice principal at Guidance Financial Services. This episode is the third in our retirement planning series. Last episode, we looked at where you should focus if you're 5 years away from retirement. And in the episode prior, we considered 10 years out from retirement. Now, normally, once you get to the third part of a series, as the host, I'd kick it off by saying, hey, if you haven't listened to the previous two, you might want to go back and listen to those earlier episodes just so you've got the appropriate context. But in this instance, that's not really necessary. If you're listening to this because you are indeed 1 year out from retirement, then maybe the prior two episodes aren't compulsory listening. But if you can spare 10 minutes, I'd at least give the 5-year episode a listen because there's likely to be some ideas that you can embrace now too. All right, let's jump into today's episode, what you should be doing when you're 1 year out from retirement. One year out from retirement is where everything comes together. You've done the work, but now it's about making sure everything's ready. Importantly too, at this point, confidence is a high priority. You want to know you have all your ducks in a row and there won't be any nasty surprises. Okay, so number one, let's nail down your retirement income plan. In the planning up to this point, we've been working on an assumed level of required income once you retire. And I mentioned that particularly in the last episode, right? About looking at what you're currently spending, figuring out how that's going to evolve once you retire, but getting real clarity on how much income you need. So with retirement now imminent, double check that spending, just make sure we're right and ensure that your planned retirement budget is indeed going to be enough for your needs. Next, you want to get clear on where this income is going to come from. Usually the majority, if not all of your retirement income will be paid from superannuation, given that this is a tax-free source. You may, however, have some income from a rental property or perhaps some share dividends. If your share portfolio is currently set to automatically reinvest the dividends, you might want to consider switching that off once you retire, so you can enjoy the benefits of the dividends that your investments produce. Finally, will you qualify for the age pension? Now, if so, it might be helpful to have a sense of what you might get from this source. Get your modelling refreshed and ensure that your plan remains robust long term. Finding out at 78 that you should have worked an extra few years is not the situation that you want to find yourself in. All right, item number 2, build a cash buffer. Now, markets will move, that's inevitable. So having 1 to 3 years of spending in cash or defensive assets, things like term deposits, reduces stress and crucially avoids the need to sell investments at a time when markets have dropped. I mentioned this in the last episode in the sequence that covered sequencing risk. We typically build this into your account-based pension investment allocation. An account-based pension is what super funds convert into upon your retirement. But you'll also likely retain some cash outside of super just as an extra little shock absorber. Okay, next, are your goals still right? So we've been working towards your retirement plan for at least the last 5 years. So at that time, you will have set a series of goals. But, life moves on, relationships evolve, and the world changes. So with retirement imminent, it's worth reflecting on whether any changes are needed. You haven't finished up work quite yet, so it's not too late to recalibrate if that's necessary. Okay, and then finally now, how about planning your first year of retirement? So retiring's a big life change, and I mentioned that a bit in the previous episode. It requires significant adjustment. So it's worth thinking about what will get you out of bed in the morning once the 9 a.m. team meeting is a thing of the past. So think about, particularly, what does the first 3 to 6 months look like? What routines will you build? I touched on last episode, perhaps joining clubs and these sort of things, but if you haven't got to it yet, there's still time, right? You're a year out from retirement. So Are there clubs that you're going to join? Maybe there's a course you want to do. What could you be taking action on now? Even if things like a course, as an example, maybe you don't want to do that whilst you're still at work, but nevertheless, you could understand, right, well, when's the enrolment for that so that I'm in it, the appropriate semester and I don't miss it by a week because I wasn't aware, right? So start to think through that transition, what that first year of retirement's going to look like, because the smoother the transition in your first year, the more enjoyable retirement becomes. And it's not just about you. Assuming you're in a relationship, if you shift from work to retirement and it's such a big shift that you're grumpy all the time, well, then that has implications for your partner as well and perhaps the rest of your family. So, there's broad considerations here, right? Making sure that retirement is something that, you find positive and makes you happy. It reverberates across the whole household and family. Okay, so to summarise, my suggestions for when you're a year out from retirement. Number one, nail down your retirement income plan, right? So or hopefully you've got clarity on this is what we want to be able to spend a year. Okay, how is that going to be generated? Number two is build up a cash buffer. We did touch on that in the previous episode, but nevertheless, a greater ability to refine now that we're only a year out. Double check on the goals. Has there been any evolution on the goals? Are you still what you'd set 5 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago? Is that still correct? And think about how you're going to spend your time in that first year of retirement in particular, and how you're going to really nail that transition of such a really significant life event. All right, well, look, I hope you found this series helpful. If you're an existing guidance client and this series has prompted any extra thinking at your end, be sure to raise it at our next progress meeting or just drop us an email. If you're not yet a guidance client and would like help building your retirement plan, schedule an initial meeting via our website. We'd certainly love to help you have an enjoyable and worry-free retirement. As always, share this episode if you found it helpful and check out the show notes for other ways that you can interact with us here at Guidance. All right, bye for now. I'll be back in a fortnight's time.